What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Chattin with Chase. We're here with the one, the only, half the face running the place when it comes to, you know it, Bex and Buster over at Q102 iHeart Radio.
Yeah, I like this music. This is sexy.
It's right. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hatboro, you are out here.
In the hat. In the borough of hats.
You know, like do you say, if someone asks you where you live, do you, like, if you're traveling, do you say Philly or do you say Pennsylvania? 'Cause you're out here in Pennsylvania.
It is. It's a little tough, right? Because like I made so many videos of people who were like, "Oh, I'm from Philadelphia,"
Philly
but they're really
guy.
from like Cherry Hill. But growing up in Philly, I feel like I can say, "Oh, I'm originally from Philly, but now I live just outside."
Yeah, that's a whole lot to explain.
It is. It's a little bit of a mouthful.
But I grew up in, okay, so I say to a lot of people, I'll be like, "Oh, I grew up in Detroit."
Right.
Okay. I did live in the city of Detroit. I grew up in Royal Oak. I didn't grow up on 8 Mile. I grew up on 10 Mile.
See, now that's a mouthful.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is a mouthful. So, again, thanks so much for joining us here on the comfy couch of Chattin with Chase, where we just like to be casual. By the way, the couch's name, no joke, from Raymore and Flanagan, is called The Chase.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I went to Raymore Flanagan, too. I feel like we looked at this one, too. We almost got this. This is nice.
It's affordable. It's nice. Feel free to take a lay after everything's said and done. And
Whatever you're into, buddy.
So I wanted to jump into it. You've been in Philly for how long now?
Collectively, so I moved away. I got here originally in 2012, 13, something like that. I was here for about 5 years. Our station got bought out. And then I worked for a record label, still kind of kicking it around. But then I moved to join iHeart, and so it's kind of like within radio. Sometimes what'll happen is like it's like sports, where contracts will go up, and you either stay with the team and redo another deal, or you're moving onward to another situation, or hey, we sold the team.
Right. And now it's like, okay, now who wants me? I'm out here. I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
But
so then I moved back to Philadelphia in 2019. So collectively, I don't know, like 10 years.
all right. But kicking it back to 10 Mile, not 8 Mile.
Yeah.
Your kid out there in Detroit, like where did music start for you? Like where was the passion for music to kind of get you where you are now?
Real young. I have pictures of me as I don't even know if I could really talk yet, and I'm wearing headphones, which probably wasn't good for my hearing, Mom. But nonetheless, I was really, my family was really into music. My uncle was really into music growing up. He used to play a lot of music.
Okay.
So I was really into the party atmosphere of it. I liked the vibe. I was also addicted to MTV, and that was in, 88? I was born in 86. So like, 88, I was kind of like watching MTV and soaking it all in.
When it was still like music.
Absolutely. And that was when MTV was MTV.
Sure.
And so I really got into the scene then, and I loved local radio. I used to listen to it all the time, and I would find my favorite music. I was really big into rock music, and then I found hip hop a little bit later. It was from the family.
Yeah. Was there a particular DJ when you were listening to the local radio that really stuck out there? You're like, I want to be like them.
So there's a few. Detroit, I always say in so many ways, Detroit and Philadelphia are like cousins.
Okay.
Because Detroit radio is a lot like Philadelphia radio, or at least I've seen some comparisons. And, like we didn't have Preston and Steve growing up.
Sure.
We had Drew and Mike.
Okay.
And by the way, same owners.
Sure.
Same, the stations were carved out to be the same type of station.
Gotcha.
Which is crazy. You grow up to learn that. There was this dude, I remember my mom, because I didn't really like country music, but my mom did. And there was this station that launched, Young Country Detroit. And I was probably like 10 years old. And when they launched, maybe a little younger. When they launched with like Garth Brooks and Shania Twain. It was like that new country at the time.
Yeah.
That was pissing off like George Jones and Johnny Cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were kind of taking over in the mid-'90s, and they launched this new station, and it was called Young Country Detroit. And the whole plan was that they were like the young station that would it was irreverent and edgy, but played that new music.
Sure.
And so I remember listening to it because my mom liked the music, but I was listening to the jocks.
Sure. Okay.
And there was this dude, Dr. Dave. He was the afternoon guy. And I remember he was kind of raw. He would say some wild stuff. And my mom would even flip the channel. She'd be like, oh, he's disgusting. And I'd be like, I know you're listening when I'm not in the car.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because years later I found out that he came from Tampa
Okay.
at the same station that I eventually went to go work at. And we found each other's same circles and learned that I was actually growing up on like the DNA of a radio station that I eventually went to go work for.
Isn't that crazy how life just kind of happens that way?
Absolutely.
Kind of putting yourself out there. Now, was Dr. Dave an actual doctor?
No. No. I don't think there's a lot of Dr. Don, Dr. Daves. There's a lot of those in radio that I don't think any of them. I mean, is Dr. Phil a doctor?
I don't.
I don't think anybody's ever checked
I think
that
we
out.
get Dr. Phil on this couch. I don't know if I want that.
Anything's possible.
But that's true. Anything's possible, Kevin Garnett. So to that point, like your name as a DJ is Buster.
Yeah.
Do you guys earn those nicknames? Is that given to you? Is that something that you run with as like a pen name? Like, how does Dr. Dave, Buster, how does that come about?
So, yeah, like a lot of it'll be coined to you when you're an intern. You know,
Okay.
there's a lot of those like, oh, you're intern mustard plug or whatever. I don't know, like whatever.
Have you named somebody that?
Yeah, I've named a lot of people. Like I've named people pork chop. You know, like
I feel like that could be a good nickname though.
yeah,
pork chop.
All these worked. All these were good. But when I got in the game, I was going by Brandon, which is my real name. I was going by Brandon for a little while. I wanted to work at this one station in Detroit so bad. And I'd moved out to California to work because the way radio works is you don't typically get to start in a big market.
Okay.
People don't usually start in a Philadelphia.
Sure. Makes sense. I feel you got to work
start-
your way up from the minor leagues to the big leagues.
Right. They start down the shore, you know, and then work their way. So
Love that you said down the shore, by the way.
what?
Just down the shore, not at the beach, down the shore.
Right.
Real Philly terminology.
Well, I got and now my fiance, her family has a house down the shore, so
Yeah.
I'm well versed now.
I love that.
I'm in there. But yeah, so you have to start in a smaller town. So I worked in Flint, Michigan. I worked in Toledo, Ohio, and I worked in Fresno, California. I did that all in like a 2-year span.
Wow. Okay.
And when I moved back to Detroit, I had reached out to the station that I started interning at. And I reached out to the boss and was like, hey, I'm back in Detroit. I went out and I learned a lot. Let me on here. And I wanted to work for him and that station so bad, I didn't care what he named me.
Sure.
So he named me Noise.
Okay.
He was like, I heard your tape. You make a lot of noise. And I don't know why he talked like Dick Tracy's boss.
He had the cigar coming out of his mouth, Shane.
Yeah. So I remember he hit me with that. But Noise with a Z, by the way, because of course.
I mean, that's only going to make it better, right? Noise with a Z.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't really love that, but I wanted to work at that station so bad. So I was like, whatever. So I went by that for a little while. When me and my buddy got a gig in New York at the same time, 2 different shows, same station.
Okay.
They signed us both. And both of us had to change our name. And I was pumped. I was like, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Get this thing away from me.
Get rid of Noise with a Z and a backward S.
Yeah. And a money sign.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have done the money sign. So I still can with Buster. So Buster was something that I was just kind of looking. I was really scanning through like names that were animated, names that you know, because our audience in top 40 is female driven. So I was like, all right, what could a girl hear and think is adorable? Almost?
Sure.
like a
What are
puppy.
they going to vibe with? Like, yeah, oh my God, yeah.
Well, self-deprecating almost,
Sure.
and like also with a name like Buster, I can get away with saying more on the air because it's like, how serious can you say Buster?
Right.
There's only if you quote me as a journalist because I said something offensive, there's only so far you get. But when you say Buster said,
Sure.
then it's
Where's
like
the seriousness of that? Of like, you're quoting a guy named Buster right now. Like,
you knew what you were getting into.
Exactly. So did you have that thought process when picking it out too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I went with Buster. I was like, I started going through cartoons and I was like, what was the name of that bunny from Tiny Toons? Buster Bunny. And I was like, Buster, I kind of dig that. So I started talking to people. I was like, what do you guys think of this? And we work with it. So since 2009, I've been Buster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, like, when people came up to you, because obviously, like, for those who don't know, my real name is Doug, not Chase. Surprise, surprise for everybody listening. Even though it's the first line in my Instagram bio is my name is Doug. Anywho,
Yeah, everybody still calls you Chase.
did you? And that's totally fine. I've never had a nickname, and I think it's cool to have a nickname.
Yeah.
Did it take you a little bit of time to be like, hey, I'm not Noise, I'm Buster now, or like I'm not Brandon?
Nah,
I'm
because
Buster?
noise was not that big. I was kind of like a little guy on the station in Detroit. I was like a weekender.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really a big factor there. That
Okay.
noise thing wasn't that big of a deal. So when I moved to New York and got my first full-time show there, that's when it was almost like I got to debut, and I just changed all my social stuff to that.
Sure.
Got to sort of rebrand.
Now, when you got to New York, was that the moment where you felt like, all right, we're really popping off here, like people are knowing me, or was that the next chapter of like your radio career?
When I got to New York, it changed from just radio to like, this is your life.
Okay.
You know,
Was that something you wanted, or you?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
for,
that's
like,
what I was looking for. New
okay.
York was the plan from when I was a kid watching SNL reruns on Comedy Central.
Okay.
You know, New York was always the plan. So when I got to New York, it was like, ha, I'm here. I'm 21. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And I was doing late nights from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., which was cool because it opened up the whole day for me to New York it up.
Sure.
And I was living in the city, going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that's when I started taking meetings with people at MTV and started doing stand-up at Gotham and doing these moments where you're like, whoa, like this is now my life. This is no longer I work at a radio station.
Sure.
You know, I'm opening up other opportunities.
Yeah, your
and
personality.
yeah, and so that kind of, you know, that was really cool to work alongside of really big names and to work alongside of names that eventually became on to, you know, went on to become huge and work with them. You know, I'm hoping actually this thing, you know, comes out of your basement one day and we get rich off this.
That'd be great. That's the goal, everybody. So, you know, like, comment, and subscribe.
Let's get them rich. So yeah, so, you know, I would say New York changed it all from there. Then, I was only there for a little over 3 years, and then I came to Philadelphia. Coming to Philadelphia kind of made it to where that sort of changed my life to where I was now like an East Coast guy, I felt like.
Okay.
And where my brand really kind of, I feel like I work best out here.
Sure.
I like it out here. I've worked in other markets. I've worked in other cities. And, you know, I've worked in as big as New York, as small as Flint. I've worked in your Indianapolises and Tampas, and those are dope too. But Philadelphia,
what is
the
it?
East Coast?
What is it about Philly? And you said it like Philly really feels like the East Coast. I feel like though New York is on the East Coast, it's so many people who move to New York for an opportunity, right? It's, you know, there's so much to do out there, whether it's business, music, movies, whatever it is. But all those people aren't from the East Coast. They're from everywhere else. Where Philadelphia, like we don't leave. We stay here. We stay within 10 miles. So like, what do you think it is about Philadelphia where it's like, man, this is the true form of East Coast, and these are real, genuine people?
Well, for me, you know, I said it earlier, I always felt like Detroit and Philly are cousins. And I always felt like Philadelphia was a cool hybrid between the big city East Coast style of the New Yorks of the world.
Sure.
Right. And some of that grit and chip on its shoulder and grind and sports town that Detroit also is.
Right.
Also a little bit of soul, a little bit of music, a little bit of art.
Yeah, it's
you
so
know
eclectic. I mean? Like every neighborhood is a little bit different. And I think this is something that I get into a lot with people when we start talking about like what's the real version of Philadelphia, what are the true neighborhoods, and there's so much passion and sometimes ignorance of people being like, oh, that's not actually in the city. Like Manayunk and Roxborough aren't in the city. They are. They're just such a different vibe than other parts of the city where people are so passionate. And again, it's so eclectic neighborhood by neighborhood of what you're getting, what kind of culture, food, music, all of that stuff. But you had brought up sports. I feel like the Phillies kind of took you to another level next year with, who was it, with Nick, your camera guy?
Yeah.
You capturing all of those videos being posted on Jimmy Kimmel. Talk, like, was that just a, hey, we're going out here doing that, and that magic erupted from the beauty of the Phillies playoffs? Like, was that planned?
So first off, shout out to Nick Johnson. That's my partner in crime for all this. And, you know, we've sort of made it a habit to, whenever something is in our sphere that's coming to the city, it's a quick text, or we're hanging out already and we look at each other and go, are we doing that? Yeah, we're doing that.
Right.
You know, and that's everything. It's not just sports stuff. You know, when Ed Sheeran came to town for his show over the summer, I had texted his label and was like, hey, I know he's doing these things where he's popping in little bars or he's doing whatever.
I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to text Ed Sheeran's label, though. Like, that's
yeah,
that's cool.
That's actually the label that I used to work for, too.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Atlantic Records. And so I texted the person who actually has the job that I had.
Okay.
I was there. And so I hit her up and I was like, hey, I know Ed is doing all of these things in every market that he stops in before the show. What's he doing in Philly?
Right.
She's like, I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So, I'm talking to her throughout the week. She's like, okay, I do know that there is something, but I don't know what it is yet. I was like, all right, so I'm just going to be on standby. So I called Nick and, we're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready to go no matter what it is. I got the iHeart mic.
Yep.
Let's go. And so it was the night before I got the text saying he's going to be at Phillips Steaks on Pass Young. I'm like, all right. I hit up Nick. I said, let's go. We're going to go this time. Got there a little bit early, made sure we were ready to roll.
Yep.
The place was dead when I got there.
Sure.
And he had just posted that he was there.
Wow.
And I saw the flood starting to happen. And I went in right as it was getting crazy. And I talked to the owner. I think his name's Joe. I talked to the owner of Phillips. And I was like, hey, what's the deal? What's going on? And I was like, can I get some access? And he's like, as much as he's like, believe me, I want all the coverage. As much as his team lets you close to him, do whatever you want.
Wow. I love that.
I'm like, all right, I got a little juice with them. I can work with this. Yeah. So and Nick and I are kind of like just patrolling the area. Just, all right, where is he going to come from? We finally found out what access point he was using. I kind of stood there. He walks in, says what's up. I'm mic'd up, ready. Then he goes inside to start making steaks. I run around back and I go over to the little window there, and I shove the mic, and I don't know what I'm getting.
Right.
Nick is positioned in front of the window,
Sure.
so you can see Ed is making cheesesteaks. I've got the mic and my arm breaking my arm into Phillips Steaks trying to get their audio. I can't even hear what I have until later on when I get home and edit it. We ended up getting great content, and that ended up kind of getting – that I would say was like the biggest video of the year that we had done thus far.
Absolutely.
And then we started doing, the sports stuff when that started rolling, started covering the Phillies fans. The victories were starting to gain some traction.
Yeah.
Bring on Arizona, all of that. But it wasn't until they lost. And the true misery of Philadelphia was felt across the world as every fan. Now, mind you, bro, Nick and I were talking, and we were like, no matter what, we were saying, no matter what, we're going to get it. And so for all those Phillies home games, for the playoff games, we went and watched most of it over at Live Casino. And we were just in position.
Right.
Waiting. So that night, we were like, all right, we're getting it no matter what, even if they lose. And they lost.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, this is going to be hard because normally when you're like, all right, Phillies fans, how we feeling? You just let them go.
Yeah, Shred October.
Instead, it was pure misery, and I got a lot of dirty looks. Like, it was not a good temperature. People were kind of pissed. The stuff that didn't make the tape was like, how do you think we're feeling?
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like, I don't, I'm just trying to get it, man. And
this is my job. Just do something, please.
And that night, I went home and chopped it up. And it's funny because all these videos were chopped up on my phone, and my fiance and I would lay there, and I'd be like, all right, I got to get it down to a minute and a half.
Right.
And we would just keep tightening it and tightening it. She'd be like, get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. Get rid of that one. And then finally, I'm like, all right, here it is. I post it. By morning, I see the numbers. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, this one's going off on Twitter. Like, these are numbers I've never seen before.
Sure.
And which we ended up getting, I think, 5 million views on Twitter for that.
Wow.
Which, like, I'd never, when that started going, I'm like, I called Nick. I'm like, dude, we just crossed 1 million. We just crossed 1 million views.
That's crazy.
And then that day, producer, I started getting hit up by ESPN. I think was the first crazy publication that was like, "Hey, can we use this?" And then it started to be, and then I got a tweet from Jimmy Kimmel's producer that we got on the phone, and he's like, "Hey, I can offer you this for your tape. Can we put it on?" I was like, "Yeah, can you email this just so I know this is all on the up and up?"
Absolutely.
And he sends it over from an ABC.com email. I was like, "Hey, that's legit." Next thing you know, we're on that night. We made Good Morning America, the Today Show. It was cool to just watch that clip go nuts and to get reached out to by everyone that saw it all, people that I knew all throughout my life that are like, yo, I just saw you on the Today Show.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah, I do this.
Right.
This is me. Like, now from a professional perspective, like how did iHeart react and like Q102 react? Were they like, dude, great job, this is incredible? Or do you find that more so to your point earlier of this is your life, this is your job, like this is what you enjoy doing?
Little column A, little column B, right? Like, and
I
that's
like that term. I'm going to use that. I like that term a lot.
well, it's the best case scenario because iHeart liked it because iHeart was getting a
Yeah.
lot of recognition. That flag was, airing on all those publications.
Absolutely.
So that was cool. Everybody was into that. And then, for me, like those are those sort of summit points. Like, bro, the coolest thing that I can say, the thing that I'm the most proud of, is that every year of my life is the best year of my life.
Hell yeah, man. I love that.
And, work has sort of been a catalyst to a lot of that. And doing things like this create those summit points of like, I've reached some of these brass rings enough to where, all right, I know how to act,
right?
With some of this moving forward, which I'm sure you experience,
yeah,
with a lot of your stuff.
I was just gonna say, like, it gets to a point where you feel like this is normal, this is what we wanted, but going back to it, did you ever have that moment where you're like, I don't like this is crazy to me? Like people are noticing me, people are hearing my voice, they're coming up, they want a picture, they want to talk to you, like, it just became comfortable.
I think I've gotten to experience that on a small level over the years, because when you go do small market radio, you're like a god.
Sure.
So when people see you,
small pond.
Yeah. So like, and that was always kind of weird to me because I was like, I'm not that big of a deal, but you guys just need to get out of here.
Right. Yeah. Sure. There's more to life than me in this.
So those sort of moments, I guess, trained me of kind of the responsibility of that because there'd be kids and stuff that would be coming up wanting your autograph,
right?
And how you talk and respond in front of them. You're like, okay, there's a little bit of a power to this, to where you don't want to do anything too crazy. I'd say the weirdest thing for me over the years is not so much when people come up and say something that I actually enjoy for the most part,
right?
Unless I'm not taking out my garbage or doing something crazy. It's the the scary ones are. I just saw FM Buster at the store, and I'm like, oh, was I a dick?
Yeah. How was I acting?
Yeah. Those are the ones where I'm like, oh, I got to remember that just because, people don't say something doesn't mean that they don't recognize you from your brand or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes you could tell.
Sure.
Sometimes you could
the
tell.
Side eye or something like that.
Yeah. So
it's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
But like that's
also let you know you're doing your job.
That's I was talking to the one and only Jen Fred about that, and I said,
shout out to Jen Frederick.
Gotta love her.
Yeah.
But I was asking her one day, I said, how do you feel when you're out and about, you're just shopping at a Target, whatever it is, and somebody comes up to you and it's just like asking for a picture? She goes, well, if they don't ask me for a picture, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great point. But I had to do her, what do you do? Because I'm sure she gets it so much in the Philly area. I mean, she's an icon out here.
Right.
What happens when like you're just not feeling it or you're not on? She looked at me and she goes, I just say to this person, we take the picture. She goes, I'm obviously happy and that's great. She goes, but I say, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you my full self right now, and I apologize for that, because she also has a life and gets tired. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to see, especially getting to know Jen as like a friend now and not just the person that you see on
Fox
TV.
29. Yeah,
which is great. But like to your point, a little bit ago of just reaching these brass rings. Did you always feel that way? Was it always like you were pushing yourself, or was there a moment where you started reaching some brass rings and you're like, oh, I'm putting myself in these opportunities to keep collecting these rings and keep going farther, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm creating opportunities for myself? Was like there a magic moment that you think of? Was it going to New York? Was it going back to the station that you internship at? Was it going to work with Dr. Dom's studio?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of those, dude. I think I've had those moments ever since I started doing what I do. When I started getting calls from people that I grew up listening to, I would save their voicemails because I'd be like, I have this voicemail from him.
Yeah.
If I lose everything, at least I have this voicemail.
Yeah.
So you start, those moments become bigger and bigger, and they should.
Right.
And they should continue to become bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, there's challenges exist for a reason, because on the other side of it is something prosperous. So, or in theory, it should be. So I would say, yes, I've experienced those my whole career. I've been blessed enough, but I've earned it because I've worked hard enough for it. and I've put myself in those positions and I've made the right decision. I made a lot of decisions. I've made most of the right decisions, and I'm confident that if I continue the trend and the trajectory of the way I work, that I'm going to continue to reach those rings, and they're going to be bigger and bigger every time. You know, I got a big year in front of me. I'm getting married, dog.
Yeah, man. Congrats on that. That's super
Yeah.
exciting. Best
Jamaica.
Oh, destination wedding. There we go.
Well, that's how you keep a lot of people out of it.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. I will say, getting married, easily the best day of my life. Not that you asked, nor was this prompted, but everybody had told me this. They're like, take at least 10 minutes for just you guys, just to like soak that in and
to
be
bang.
Like, if you feel like that's what the moment calls for, bang it out, baby. Yeah. Bang it out multiple times. But like, everybody was like, just take a moment, relax before the reception, whatever it is, and that changed our whole vibe for the rest of the day, because like it moved so fast, but those 10 minutes gave us a chance to just slow things down and go, all right, here we are. So there's that for anybody getting married. You know, that's a little bit of advice for you. Bang it out too if you need to. But
why not?
Like you had said it, and I really like that line you just said. Like, every year has been the best year of your life, and I think that's pretty incredible. But you said it too, like you've put yourself in these positions to be like, look, I'm busting my ass. I'm working hard for this.
Yeah, man. I mean, totally. Like everything you're sitting here, you just asked me a minute ago about, you know, what it took for us to get out there and go record stuff. And, you know, like we were the only, when we recorded that Phillies video when they lost, we were the only ones out there.
Right. Nobody wants to get bad content or sad content, I'll say.
Yeah, negative or whatever.
Yep.
Those people don't know Philadelphia.
Yeah, right. We love it. We eat it up.
But it was another example of us continue the Ed Sheeran thing. None of those were on the clock. I'm not getting paid extra.
Right.
You know, I mean, my view. But
sure. You're building your brand.
Right. But that's one of those things where 1 + 1 = 2. The hard work,
right,
plus putting yourselves in the right opportunity equals the win.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's something that I will always continue to do is, first off, lead by example. I've got a team. I've got a staff. You know, I'm the program director at Q. I'm not just the afternoon guy. So I've got a kind of team that's riding along there with me, and I don't ever want them to see me slow down.
Right.
I want them to always see me with my foot on the gas.
Yep.
And so I think, you know, that's important for me to continue moving forward to show that this hard work plus putting yourself in the right positions at the right times is where you're going to get those wins. Because there's a lot of people that are coming up, especially nowadays. It's so much easier. I mean, look, we got this technology rolling in your basement.
Right.
It has never been easier for someone to put themselves on the platform and to be everybody's a star now.
Yeah.
You know, it's the ones that are going to outwork the other ones that are going to win. And the ones that don't, the ones that are sitting there at the end of the bar going, it's a tough racket. That's not fair. And then, there's no money to make. There's no this. There's no. You know how many people on radio bitch about there's no money to make?
Right.
Dog.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I didn't graduate high school, and I've made really good money for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And my whole point is not because I hit the lotto.
Right.
Because I bust my ass.
Yeah.
And I earned all these situations. And I saw a lot of people on this climb up Mount Everest dead at summit points because, it's just not fair. There's no money. Okay, cool. Well,
yeah,
more for me.
Well, who instilled that in you? Because I think that's a great story in its own right. You know, not graduating high school and then making it to a top 40 station, which just continues to grow, it seems like.
Yeah.
Where did that come from to be like, hey, what was it, just a drive of like, I have to get to where I want to go to? Or was it one of your mentors in radio who were like, this is how it's done, and you're going to do everything you have to do to get where you want to get, which is a major market?
I wanted out of where I was from.
Sure.
I just wanted out. Not that Detroit is a bad place. Not that even where I was from was a bad place, although there were whatever. I just wanted out of what I knew. I wanted to explore, and I knew I wanted to go to New York one day, but not necessarily. I say New York, and I do mean New York, but to some degree, I mean that figuratively. New York, the big city, whatever.
Right.
I knew I wanted to make it to that, next level, but I knew I wanted a life that nobody around me could provide. Not necessarily my family, but like my environment, my friends, You know, the people, the places I went to school, the kids that I was around. I just never felt I was always like, I want out of here. It's like that movie, like a cliche. One day I'm gonna hit it big. You guys will, I felt like that sometimes. Sometimes I would be like, yeah, well, listen, when I turn this age, because I left high school early, but I wasn't old enough to take classes at this broadcasting school in Detroit.
Okay.
And that was the plan. And so, for like 2 years when I was just a loser, not going to school, not in work, I was like working at the pizza place, whatever. I'd tell people what my plan was, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, okay,
yeah, of course."
And I'd be like, "Whatever, dude." And I would notice that, when I worked those jobs, a lot of those jobs, it was just unhappy people. And ultimately, my goal was to work as hard as I possibly can to not be around unhappy people. I like being around people that feel like they're winning, that can teach me something along the way.
Right.
And when I feel like I'm in an environment where it's a lot of negativity or there's not a lot of wins or celebration to be had, I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here. So all of that was my driving force, that once I started taking the broadcasting classes and got my internship, then I started seeing how much money these guys were making, and I'm like, okay, this is my way out. I'm out. Hit the buzzer. But I also was taking those broadcasting classes not to just do radio, but I also did them for video, because it was technically a poor man's film school.
Sure.
And I wanted to be Kevin Smith. Shout out to Jersey at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I wanted to do that. I was writing scripts when I was 16. I was doing stand-up when I was 17, sneaking into clubs. And I was determined to, through one of these outlets, I was like, I know this industry is calling my name.
Right.
I know I can do this, So that was it. Once I found the broadcasting school and got the internship, that was when I found my outlet and was like, all right, this is it. This is where I can go and, get everything I wanted to achieve and more.
Yeah, dude, that's an incredible story. And like you had mentioned it a moment ago, of like, you never want to see the team see you not have your foot on the gas. And I know that you've mentioned this before. Do you think a big reason for that is because you have said this, we're not a top 40 radio station. We're Philly. Yeah. So like, where did that come from, and how do you make sure to instill that into the team to be like, guys, look, this is how it's done, because I don't want you to be down at the end of the bar being like, there's no money, there's no opportunity, I'm switching careers.
Yeah.
And like, are there obstacles with talking some of the team where you've been like, man, I'm trying, but I'm not getting through? And like, how do you overcome that?
Not this team.
Okay.
This team gets it.
There was no hesitation there, so that's incredible.
Not
to hear.
this team.
And it shows.
Yeah. This team is awake, and most of who I've worked with in Philly and the team that we've put together has had that bug in them. There's been situations in other markets where I've felt like, you people aren't necessarily seeing the same thing I'm seeing. But that's, like I said, it's like sports. When a coach takes over a team, hey, listen, I played a couple games with this quarterback. We're going to need to see what the kid on the bench has.
Sure.
This isn't working out, whatever. So it's like, we felt that. But the thing about, we're not a top 40 station, we're a Philadelphia station, that moniker has really started to conjure up because of the transitional world that we're living in, of media and the way everything is. We can't afford to just be a top 40 station. I can count around the whole country all the top 40 radio stations that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about them in the market. They might have rating success,
right?
But that's because it's a different metric of audience. Whereas the real audience, how real people see your radio station or your brand, a lot of those stations nobody cares about.
Okay.
And whether it's from a nightlife perspective, whether it's from a client perspective, as far as puncturing the market and really meaning something to the community, being at everything.
Right.
A lot of stations have kind of lost that drive to be at everything. I come from the old school where it was like, oh, what's coming to town? All right, crank up the van. Let's go. We're going to be there. Nowadays, you don't see that drive, and I still kind of have that old school bug in me, mixed with the new school of, hey, let's grab a mic and let's go take it to the streets. Let's go. So, when I see our staff and our team doing that, when I see our night guy Nugget hosting his own bingo game in 6 nights a week all over this city, creating a demand for something that didn't even exist. before he got to the market. You know, when I see some of my talent understand that that's how to unlock some of the doors in this city. And, you know, and Rach and Bex are great with that too. You know, Rach and Bex have a great, they have a charisma about them
Sure.
that people just love.
Yeah, you just attached to it.
Yeah, and you just want them at your spot
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And so you see that come into play time and time again. And, you know, and it's also, I like when the bigger than life things happen. When Bex comes in the studio and says, hey, what I think we should do, there's this girl on TikTok who wants to paint a Taylor Swift mural. We should call our friends over at the city and see if we can get her a spot to paint the mural. And then we should call this news station and this news station and have them come out. And I'm like, that's a good idea. We should do that. And we did it. And it was awesome.
Yeah, the way that you guys attach into so many different formats, I guess, of what media is or what personalities or entertainment is now is impressive. I mean, to do this, you had DM'd me the one day, we're like, let's do a cheesesteak review. So for you guys to embed yourselves in that community and see people who are like, oh, there's an opportunity here for mutual benefits is just impressive. Now, you had brought up Bex, and I wanted to ask you, I was fortunate enough to watch you guys do a show for a little bit the one time in studio. You guys have such a connection together, and you guys had worked together before or knew each other for a little while, right?
Yeah, we met her in New York back in the day. She actually interned at the station that I was working at. She was in the production department, and she also interned with the show that was on before me.
Okay.
So I kind of knew her from there. And then when I got to Philadelphia, we were hiring for weekenders.
Okay.
And one of the people that applied was her. And the funny thing is I didn't know who she was.
Okay.
I just kind of liked her tape and knew that she was local enough to where this might work. And like, I knew she had done something in New York, but didn't know she worked with us. So she comes into the station when we're doing our interview with her, and we're like, hey, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, I know you, don't I?
Yeah.
Where'd we meet? And she's like, are you serious? She's like, I kind of thought that's why I got this interview. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, no, we just liked your tape. But so then, you know, I worked with her for a little while at that station, and then we both joined iHeart separately in two different markets.
Oh, okay.
I joined iHeart in Tampa. She joined iHeart in Boston.
Gotcha.
I come back to Philly for a year, pandemic, blah, 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 craziness.
Yep.
She was ready to, her deal was up in Boston, and she wanted to come back to Philly.
Okay.
She had met her husband here. She wanted to raise her kid here, the whole deal. And so our regional boss, shout out to Thea, and Thea oversees like this whole side of the country when it comes to like iHeart program.
I can only imagine the amount of responsibility.
Yeah, and she's also the program director of Power 105 in New York. So that's like Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah.
So she's like the Breakfast Club's program.
Wow.
You know. So yeah, Thea's great, and she's always been a proponent for personality and, you know, sort of like someone that's wanting bigger than life brands to exist within our radio stations. And so she called us one day and she was like, hey, Buster, what do you think? Don't you know Bex? And I was like, yeah. And
turns out I do actually.
Yeah, she's like, well, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about this? And I was like, let's go. So we're now 3 years in. It's really, really cool to be doing a show. We kind of had a leg up going into it because a lot of times these shows, whether they're mornings or afternoons, these new shows that they're putting on a lot of radio stations, it'll be like Jeff and Jane or whatever.
Right.
They don't know each other.
Sure.
Sometimes that works. Most of the time it doesn't. Because a lot of times egos come into play. A lot of times there's just a lot of BS that can sort of take over the room, especially with co-hosts, even if you like each other in the beginning. With Bex and I, what's cool is that we've known each other for so long. It was really easy for us to have the on-air chemistry. The off-air respect is something that we talked about in the very beginning because both of us have now seen that so many times. She saw it so many. She worked a lot of morning shows where she was forced to work with somebody, and it was tough. And so she knew what that was like. And so both of us were like, all right, here's our promise to not do this, this, and this.
Okay.
And if we feel like we're going like this,
we
need to talk about it.
Right.
You know, and there's those sort of things. So we have that respect for each other to where both of us are very confident in our roles, so
Sure.
we've never had an ego conversation,
Mhm.
and I don't know that we would, just because, again, we know who each other are, we know what our strengths are, we know
Sure.
where we're at, and we also know how to help each other when the other person is, whatever. If
Mm-hmm.
there's some sort of shortcoming that the other person has, the other person's right there.
Yeah.
So I feel like knowing all that makes it easy, and then at the end of the day, having that brother-sister relationship makes it really easy to like bust each other's balls.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, the camaraderie and like the rapport that you guys have from seeing it in person to hearing it on the radio, it's just impressive to see the back and forth. And like, how is that for you as a host to be like, this is nice. Like I go into work every day and I'm just shooting the breeze with my friend.
Yeah, it's a lot better than doing it by yourself, because I've done radio by myself a lot.
Okay.
And that's not fun. It's just kind of like you're just yapping at the mic, and
Right.
it's cool. I like, when I was doing radio by myself, I would rely on the phones a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed somebody to
Sure,
converse with.
interaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So this makes it easy to be like, oh, what's the topic? Oh, relationships, throw it up. What's the topic? Christmas, throw it up. We got it. What is it? So
Yeah.
it feels like it's really easy when we're coming up with content. We'll be like, oh, that'll be perfect for us to just sort of go in on.
Yeah.
And we don't even really discuss it any more than we know where we're going to go with it.
For sure. What does that look like planning wise for you guys? Like, is that weeks? Is it day? Is it like a big meeting in the beginning of the week where you're like, all right, these are the topics we're going to discuss this week, Monday through Friday?
I have a lot of meetings with work outside of the show
Okay.
from a program director standpoint.
Sure.
So the least amount of meetings I can have, the better. With this show, we're lucky enough to not. We built the railways of what the show is.
Okay.
As far as like, hey, at this time we're going to do a news entertainment report.
Mhm.
At this time we're going to do this. At this time we're going to do this. So we sort of have the show's skeleton built.
Sure.
So that every day when we come in about an hour before the show, we have the template, we just fill it.
Okay. Speaking of entertainment, I feel like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have been a big thing. You guys blocked Taylor Swift the week of the
Punted her.
Punted her. Like,
That's radio.
how's that entertainment wise? Like when you're just so in tune to what's going on and like that experience specifically, because I feel like Taylor Swift being a Philly girl, even though she's from like Wyoming or Reading or something that. We won't hold it against her.
Yeah.
Like what's that experience like?
Well, it was really fun. I mean, look, I had reached out to my boss. This one's a little crazy because it got a little nutty. I reached out to my boss. You have a lot of people that you get to run things through at our company and in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually always someone above you that can be like, hey, for checks and balances, if I do this, you got my back?
Sure, yeah. I need your support in this one.
Yeah. So, and look, we're a corporate radio company. We're not John's Taco Shop. We're Taco Bell.
Right.
In a lot of
Sure.
ways, for better or worse. And sometimes when you're an entity that big, like I've worked at small radio stations where we've gone nuts and done some crazy stuff, which is cool. Not a lot of that would fly here, which is cool, again, for better or worse, right? This was an idea that I was like, oh, this is going to get shot out of the sky right away. So I texted my boss almost laughing, like, yeah, right. What if we kick Taylor Swift off?
Right. One of the biggest stars, especially during that time.
Biggest
too.
artist ever right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, what if we just didn't play her?
Yeah.
Especially for our audience. Like, it'd be one thing if we were MMR.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Who never plays her ever.
Yeah. So we're like, I texted it to him, and he's like, dude, that's a good idea. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, but, politically, how much of a mess would this be?
Sure.
And he's like, I don't know. I think this could be okay. So we bring it up to another boss.
Mhm.
And I think this is where it dies.
Right.
Right. Bring it up to him, and he's looking at, and we're talking on Teams, right? Like Zoom. And he's looking at the camera, and I think he's being quiet. And
Right.
he goes, what if you punted her instead of banned her? And I'm like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So then they're like, just send us the press releases, send us the promos, let us see it all before it gets pushed out.
Right.
I'm like, all right, good deal.
Mhm.
I send it around, gets a couple notes back. Cool. I edit it, send it back. They're like, great. Now it goes up one level. I'm like, this is where it dies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it did for a second. It did. Then we went back to the label.
Mhm.
We went to management, and we got the approval. They said, hey, we're going to handle this. We're okay with it.
Mhm.
Like there was like we get the tongue in cheek of it. It's fun. She's going to think it's cute. It went to Taylor's dad.
No way. How did it make it that way? That
got approved. At least it was told that it was approved by Taylor's dad.
wow.
Right? So now we're like, okay, whatever, let's go. Mm-hmm. We get on the air, we send out the press release. Now I start seeing it go, and I really start seeing, and I knew, and I'd said from the very beginning, I said, guys, this is going to make the news, but it's going to be a big storm.
Right.
We have to be okay with the storm. Mm-hmm. Luckily, locally, Philadelphia doesn't care about any of that, even though they love Taylor.
Sure.
They're like, go Birds.
Yeah.
Sorry, Taylor, go Birds.
Yeah, you're a Chiefs fan now. Go Birds.
You sat at Lincoln Financial Field over the summer and told everybody that you and your dad used to watch Eagles games together and that you are an Eagles fan. And then 6 months later, you're wearing the jacket of the guy that beat us in the Super Bowl.
Traitor. You're a traitor, Taylor.
So, and look, all this is fun, right? It's all WWE.
Yeah, it's entertainment, baby.
Yeah.
It's views.
So when that happened, we knew we would get the action. But we didn't realize how much Philadelphia would have our back.
Yeah,
awesome. That was great. Everything's good there. Then it starts to again. We made Today's Show. We made Good Morning America. I love that repetition.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was like back to back for you, man. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So we made the big publications again, and we're like, okay, this is good. This is good. And even the newscasters are laughing as they're talking about it made 100 newscasts, and every one of the talking heads was laughing about it, right? People Magazine posted it. And that's the one where the comments were like, that radio station's misogynist. Like, how dare you? How dare you? And so I felt like that was when it went from Eagles fans to Swifties who didn't care about anything Philadelphia whatsoever. And, so that's when that's the only negativity that we saw from it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was still what's up with your headphones, bro? So, hey, sometimes it
technical difficulty. Yeah. Sometimes it just pops out.
Yeah. Hey, you don't let it throw off your motion. You just keep going. You just put it right back in. Is it back in?
It's back in. We're good. It feels good. It feels right. Sounds good though.
So Taylor's mom got wind of it. She wasn't the happiest with it.
Really? Okay.
She didn't know about it. Apparently, Dad didn't talk to Mom, I guess.
A little controversy in the Swift household there.
Yeah, and so, but at this point, the toothpaste was out of the tube.
Yeah, you can't put it back in. Like this. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, right?
Yeah, so we had to keep it moving. Sorry, Taylor's mom. But I think we made it all good. I mean, Rach ended up going nuts and playing nothing but Taylor for like 12 hours straight.
You guys really just remedied that beautifully. Like, it was just like you said, it's art, it's entertainment, it's the WWE toss.
Just having fun, man. And as far as I'm concerned, like as far as radio stations getting promotion and getting chatter, like that got a lot of action.
Yeah, and that's the point.
More action than I've ever really seen for a radio station in the last couple of years. So in a positive way.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think it was great because especially if you can cause that little bit of controversy, right? A little bit of debate.
Eric Bischoff, baby. Controversy creates cash.
It does. Cash money. Now, speaking of, you're a big wrestling fan, right?
Yeah.
So, do you try to take some of those, that advice of, Bischoff or Vince McMahon and be like, this is entertainment. We need to bring value to the fans because fans are first.
Dude, it's crazy. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm so full of wrestling analogies towards the real world. It's annoying. Who's
your favorite wrestler of all time?
Shawn Michaels.
Oh, the Heartbreak Kid.
And not religious Shawn Michaels, coked out, problematic Shawn Michaels.
Right, sexy boy. Shawn
Boy
Michaels.
Toy, throwing Sherry on the floor.
Coming from the rafters.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The Montreal screw job, Shawn Michaels.
Yes,
sir.
Yes. Problematic Shawn is the one. My whole thing sometimes is like, I'll be like, even like Taylor Swift, for example, right? I said this on the air with about her line of ex-boyfriends and famous ex-boyfriends that we all know.
Sure.
I'm like, you don't understand. I was saying this to Bex. You don't understand. Bex, if you watched wrestling in the 80s, you would understand that this is Hulk Hogan, and she needs to beat the Iron Sheik. She needs to beat all these guys so that she has the story, so that Taylor Mania still runs wild. She still holds the title. She made it through all them, all the heartbreak, and it was horrible, horrible. Really, that was all just putting her over.
Swiftomania is running wild on you.
It's all part of the deal. So, like, you know, I'm full of those sort of analogies where I'll tie wrestling into the real world. And yeah, Vince McMahon, are you kidding me? If you're in this industry and you don't at least, I'm not saying you have to take all of his advice or do what he did.
Let's not bring back the Vince McMahon kiss my ass club.
Nah. But, like, you got to at least, like, understand that as a businessman in the entertainment world, that guy figured it out.
Yeah, he did. Now, WrestleMania's coming to Philly.
Yeah, buddy.
You guys doing anything? Anything that you
Hell
can share?
yeah.
All right.
So we've given away a ton of tickets.
Sure. If you have extra, I would love some.
Shout out Gucci. We have given away a ton of tickets. We'll probably give away some more. We will be on site for everything. And I'll be broadcasting from down there. I think I'm going to pretty much live in South Philly for the week.
Yeah.
I'm going to everything, and I'm in the press conference room.
Oh,
So
what?
I hope when Trips is sitting there, I get to be like, hey, iHeart Radio Philadelphia,
Dude.
Triple H.
That's going to be incredible. I hope that you get a Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes type interview where he's like, hey, we had a couple libations in the van before we came on.
Yeah. I hope we get that too. I'm looking forward to all the content that not only are we going to get backstage, but also with wrestling fans. Wrestling fans are fun.
Yeah.
You know,
WrestleMania back in Philly for the first time in how many years?
this will be my first WrestleMania that I'm going to ever.
That's great. I've only been to one live wrestling show, and it was awesome.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, we got to get you out there.
If you need extra media for iHeart, I'm more than happy to sign a volunteer contract.
That's great. I think I'll have. I think I'll be down there capturing everybody going nuts, and you know it's a special electricity on WrestleMania week.
Yeah, for sure. And then Raw after WrestleMania, you guys going to that too?
All that, yeah.
That'll be exciting.
I'm going to the Hall of Fame joint.
Oh man, so you're doing the whole?
I'm doing all of them.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Who are you most excited to potentially interview or have a conversation with?
I would love to get a face-to-face with Heyman because I've interviewed him 3 times over Zoom, like during the pandemic.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty good rapport going.
He seems like Paul Heyman is him.
Yeah,
Same person.
What's cool is we go kayfabe. I always attempt to get whatever wrestler I'm talking to.
Right.
Before we talk, I always go, "Hey man, you know, you keep it kayfabe. I kind of like to mess with them,
Yeah.
especially if they're a heel."
That's awesome.
And you know, a lot of them will do it. They like doing it. Grayson Waller most recently, and he was so funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember I'm sitting there talking to him. I'm like, yeah, I play the wrestling video game. He's like, you look like you play a lot of video games, chap. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's right. You guys had him in studio, right?
Yeah. So Heyman was one that like off rip. It was like I kind of just let him be a jerk.
Sure.
And I leaned into it. So then after the first one, he was like, hey, man, I had fun with that. He's like,
that's
good job.
awesome.
I'm like, all right, cool, thanks. So then we do another one. And then after the last one, I was like, hey, man, thanks for staying in character with all this shit. And he's like, dude, he's like, it's just more fun that way. He's like, what are we going to talk about if I'm not Paul Heyman?
Right.
And like he was definitely like normal guy talking to me about it, and we were off air, and he's like, you know, this type of stuff, it's more important to, you know, keep it going. Like it's fun.
It's the consistency
We're
for them, for the fans and everything. And I'm sure for him too, like when he sees people from the Philly market, there's got to be such a connection from ECW with him of like, oh, my people, my roots, where I really, you know, got my start.
Absolutely. He was like, we were talking cheesesteaks on the first interview, and he was like, okay. He's like, yeah, cheesesteaks. He's like, but what do you know about a pizza roll? And I was like, what do you mean? Like the pizza rolls from the grocery store? And he's like, no, a pizza roll. It's a little roll of bread that is pizza dough that has pizza ingredients, but it's rolled up, and you get it on the counter when you're waiting for your cheesesteak. I'm like, where do you get that?
What's he talking? I still don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know either, but he
Stromboli?
yeah. But he was like, "Oh, let me guess. You get your cheesesteak at the Comcast Center." Like he was like, "You don't know real South Philly." I was
That's
like,
awesome.
all right, Paul Heyman. He's cool though. I think as far as who I'm looking forward to the most, I want to get. I want to get as big as I can get. I would love to be in the room for Roman. After, look, there's rumors that The Rock is going to be there. What if The Rock is in that press conference?
Yeah.
With gold in front of him. Would love to get some CM Punk.
Oh, man. What a pop that was the other day.
Huge. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I know that what we get out of there is going to be good stuff, and I'm just looking forward to creating some memories for myself, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah.
Now, I know we talked about this a while ago when we did our cheesesteak review, but you've met so many people in the industry, the entertainment industry, whether it's been wrestling, whether it's been music, everything in between. Was there ever a moment where you were starstruck by somebody where you were like, oh, I'm a fan, and like I don't know how to break through to Buster?
Yeah, Eminem.
Oh yeah, sure. Talk me through that.
So obviously, look, growing up, that was a whole thing. Just sort of living in the neighborhood. Like when he got arrested for pistol whipping ICP's manager, I was living around the block. We rode our bikes up there, and like the cops were still there. Like he was our neighborhood when that was happening. There was nothing bigger. And so growing up, I've sort of kept along with this Eminem story, and I've been a really big fan, and I love his work. And I was working and living in New York. It was during the Eminem and Jay-Z concerts. Do you remember when they did a Detroit, New York combo tour where they did Yankee Stadium and they did Comerica Park? So it was the night before they did Yankee Stadium, and I couldn't go that night because I had to work. I was on the air, and my boss pulls me in the room, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "I know you can't go to the show tomorrow night." He's like, "But I think I got something better for you tonight." I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, "Just we're gonna meet here." I was told by the label to meet at this, at Bowery and Delancey, so the Bowery Ballroom.
Okay.
Meet there this time, whatever. I show up. I'm there for a couple minutes. He shows up. We're like, great. Now what? Next thing you know, 3 blacked out Denali's pull up, presidential style.
Yeah.
And of course, out in the middle one, out gets Paul Rosenberg, and he's a big, tall dude. That's M's manager.
Okay.
The guy who he's always yelling at on the phone on the albums.
Yeah.
And then there's M. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, as far from this Christmas tree
Sure.
to Slim Shady. And I'm like, this is kind of crazy. I'm like, well, I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
I'm just moving. And he's kind of doing his head down.
Sure.
Palms are sweaty. And so, and this was, by the way, the M era that this was, like musically, was Recovery album.
Okay.
Which was the Rihanna songs. And, that was when he came back.
Right.
So we walk into Bowery Ballroom, and we all get in the same elevator. So we're in the same elevator, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at him. I'm like, don't look at him. Don't be weird, bro.
Like actively thinking.
Just
this.
act like you've been here before. Act like you. Oh, who are you, Eminem? Okay, cool.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I don't say anything. He doesn't say anything to anybody. And Paul Rosenberg, his manager, was talking to people. And then we file out of the elevator. The label guy takes us over to this side bar on the upstairs of Bowery Ballroom. We get a drink. We go out onto the mezzanine. At that point, M didn't get a drink with us or anything. He kept walking with his team in this other door. All right. We make it out onto the mezzanine, and it was after the Red Bull 3-style competition. And the dude on the mic was like, "Hey, by the way, we got a surprise for everybody from the Motor City. It's Marshall Mathers." And he came out and he did 3 songs.
Okay.
All right. And it was promo for the album. And the next night he was doing the show. And I remember being like, this is so cool. This is awesome. He does the show. He gets up, goes back up to that same area, walks out the same door. We walk out the mezzanine, go down the elevator. I'm walking out next to like his DJ. And we walk out of the venue. They get into their Denali's and drive off.
Yeah.
And it all happened in like half an hour's time, and it happened so quick you couldn't even think of it. But you're like, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. You know, so.
Not even being able to say a word to him, just be like, I'm here, I'm doing it.
I'm here,
shit,
but I'm not saying anything to him. I mean, I've had interviews with people I'm fans of. I've met people I'm fans of. I've met Jay-Z's and stuff. That's cool. That's awesome. But that was the only time where I was like, all right, just be cool, bro.
Yeah.
You know,
just watching an Eminem concert take place.
Yeah, right in your face, and then sharing an elevator. It was wild.
That's incredible.
Yeah, man.
Of concerts, what was there a first concert that you went to where you're like, damn, this is what I want to host this? Because you just did Jingle Ball, sold out. That was crazy. But like, was there a concert memory that you have where you're like, I want to be that MC one day?
Yeah. So, my first concert ever was with my mom, and that was Weird Al, which was dope, by the way. Shout out to Weird Al.
What a first concert.
I know, right? But then my first concert with my friends, my buddy Ryan and I went to Clutch Cargo's in Pontiac, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was D12, and it was the Cottonmouth Kings. And it was hosted by this dude named Rude Jude. Rude Jude.
Good name. That's a great radio name.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rude Jude, his name, he was actually, I don't know if you remember the Jenny Jones show.
If I looked it up, it might ring a bell.
Yeah. So Jenny Jones was this TV show in the 90s. It was one of those like toxic talk shows where they would be like, like I'm in love with you, but I'm transsexual, and then they'd fight on stage.
Like something crazy, like views, baby.
Yeah. He was on there. I remember he was from Detroit. His name was Rude Jude. And his name was Jude on the show. They brought him in, and he was being brought on because it was a Geek to Chic, where I was a dork in high school, but now I'm hot. You used to make fun of me, so I'm bringing you on this show to fight with you. Yeah. Sit down, haters. So he got famous because he was still clowning her on the show, even though he was like, you don't look good. like he was destroying her. So they kept bringing him back and bringing him back and bringing him back.
Sure.
Well, this dude was actually close with Eminem's camp and all those people. And so he hosted, this is years later. I knew him from the Jenny Jones stuff when I was a kid.
Right.
Years later, I'm like 16 at this concert, and he's like hosting it. And I'm like, I remember that dude on Jenny Jones. I forget he's from here, from Detroit. And I remember being like, man, that's a cool gig. Like he's just, kind of up there hosting, doing the deal.
Yep.
So hosting concerts, I would say that was sort of one of the first moments. Plus, like one of my favorite albums is the Bob Seger live album.
Okay.
And the very beginning, there's this jock who actually just passed away. His name's Ken Calvert. And he's a legendary radio jock in Detroit. And he happened to be the one to run the intro for Bob Seger when that album was recorded.
Okay.
So you hear his voice at the very beginning bring him out. And that's a legendary album.
Sure.
And that was another moment where I was like, man, it'd be cool to like be that one person to bring someone on and whatever. So I'd say like that was sort of the early moments of wanting to do it. And then you do it when you're doing radio. And like the first couple times I was all nervous. And,
understandably so. That's human nature, right?
Yeah.
Especially getting out of a huge audience like that. But like
totally. Yeah. So, and then you start to learn to like eat it up. Like it's fun to go out at Jingle Ball and be like Philadelphia and have everybody go nuts.
Yeah, everybody at Wells Fargo, like that was a sold out crowd, right?
Yeah.
So like, talk to me about that experience of walking out on stage and you're like, damn.
Yeah, the Jingle Ball experience is always really cool. We're sitting in the back. It's really busy. So you don't get too much time to think about it.
You're working, right?
Yeah, you're shoved in the interview room to interview the artist. Then you're over here to do this. Then you're over here doing that. Social media this. You're meeting up with this label person, whatever. And then, so the whole time, all of us are sitting there looking at our phones going like, all right, in 6 minutes, I got to be over there. So let me get over there now. So we're always sort of ready. And then we're side stage when it's time to get called on. And in between the acts, we have it set like, okay, this jock is going to interview or introduce this artist.
Sure.
And so we'll be waiting, and they'll give us the mic, and there's that like 2 minutes where we're standing there where you're like, all right, I got to get my blood pumping here. I'm about to walk out on this stage. The other artist is still performing because Jingle Ball is a rotating stage.
Oh, okay.
So one of the artists is still performing. And then while you're getting ready to go out, they're done. The stage rotates. You come out.
That's cool.
And you do like, all right, Philly. Blah, 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 blah. We'll usually have some sales stuff we got to read, whatever. And then we'll do like, all right, who's from Jersey?
Yeah.
All right, make some noise for Big Time Rush. And then you run out and they, the stage flips around. They're there. Bang, bang, da, da, da. So it's kind of a cool, like you don't get time to be really that nervous.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a moment where you just reflect on it and go, we just did that, and we crushed it?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Every year, it's that moment afterwards. It's that, like, the morning of or the late night when you're home and you're looking at all the pictures and you're starting to put together the content that you want to post as your, like, recap.
Right.
And so that's the stuff where you're like, okay, let me compile all the good stuff. And you're like, wow, I didn't even know that happened because I was too busy doing this, and this. Or, like, it's the stuff that you don't see while it's happening. And that's pretty cool. Last year, the moment for me was during Sam Smith. Sam Smith started singing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Yeah.
And
he crushes that song.
It's
so good, his version of that.
Crushes it. And the whole room was singing along, and at one point was just being quiet because they wanted to hear Sam do it. And that was the moment where I was like, wow, this is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but, like, we also have those moments on a smaller level, too. Like, I sold out oh my God, I don't want to screw up the name of the place now. It's in Wildwood. It's the beach joint. Why can't I think of it?
The Boardwalk Convention Center?
No. It's I hate that I'm not remembering. Anyways, there's a beach venue last summer that we sold out with Flow Rider. And
shout out to Philly Captain, his favorite person ever.
That is absolutely Flow Rider.
Here we are with Flow Rider.
Flow Rider. Did you know Flow Rider? We sold that out, and getting on that stage is pretty cool. It's a different vibe because it's drunk people down the shore.
Sure.
But it's also still a raging party, and the footage afterwards is like letting you know, like, all right, cool. My brand stands for this type of stuff.
Yeah.
As big as a Wells Fargo. Also, we're down the shore raging with you.
Yeah, like you said, it's got to have that cool feeling of we're doing our job because we hit so many different markets, and you got the people down at Wells Fargo being like, yeah, Sam Smith. And then you got Yo Cars, we got Flow Rider down here.
Flow Rider, did you see?
It's really good.
Yeah.
So, like, you had just mentioned Sam Smith doing his thing. Obviously, huge name. You guys had Usher there this year. Ryan Tedder. Like, who's been one of the coolest big names that you've had the chance to, like, sit down with and was maybe the most real celebrity, so to speak, where you've just been able to chop it up with them?
I mean, over the years, there's certain artists that I would see time and time again.
Sure.
To where the relationship got cooler and cooler. Machine Gun Kelly is probably the one with the most rich story.
Okay.
Because that came from our first interview. He stops it midway through because he wasn't feeling it, because he felt like at the time of the interview, and he cuts it. This is on YouTube, where he's like, yo, I feel like you're mocking me.
Oh, to you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I'm real. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And I guess he felt like the way I was talking was that I was kind of clowning the way he was talking, but really we're both just two white boys from the Midwest.
Yeah, right.
Have similar mannerisms, I guess.
I feel it.
Or at least at the time. And so he was definitely a dick, right? And
yeah, there's no sugarcoating that one.
No, it was rough. And so we, we get out of that interview room. He walks away with his team. And the woman from his label, shout out to Karen Raitt, she was like, listen, I want you to come to the show tonight. And I was like, I'm not going to his show tonight. I actually liked his Wild Boy song, but now I'm not going to the show. I'm not dealing with that.
Sure.
She's like, please, for me, just come. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go, and he was on tour with Tech Nine at the time. Kick-ass show.
Sure.
Climbed on top of TLA, busted a Jack Daniels bottle over his chest. The guy was a maniac. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. Too bad he sucks. At the time. And so I'm standing there after the show, and he had come over to the merch booth with his guy, and they were signing autographs for people that were buying merch from him.
Okay.
And Karen from the label, like, waved at him. and he sees that I'm standing next to her.
Right.
And he goes, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, all right. And she's like, will you hang out for a second? I'm like, okay. So we go backstage at TLA. He comes in the room.
What's going through your head in that moment too? Like, what the hell does he want to talk about? Is he about to take me in a back room?
Nah, I figured it would be like hey, I figured it was what it was.
Okay, sure.
He was like, hey, my team kind of told me that I was really kind of not being cool. And he's like, listen, just so you know, like, I'm bipolar. I'm trying not to drink.
Sure.
I'm like, all right, whatever. And he's like, just so you know, next time I come back to Philly, whatever you need, let me know.
Okay.
And I said, let's redo the interview.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, cool. He comes back. We redo the interview, but this time we're reading. I published the first one.
Yeah.
So now we're reading the comments from the first one.
Oh, wow.
And his fans were just clobbering me.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I was like, all right, you got to put me over to your peeps, dude. And so he's like, he's good. Buster's all good. So after that, it got to be every time I would see him, something else would happen. So the next time I see him, we're at top of TLA, and he agreed to meet some of our winners and do an interview. We're doing the interview, and the kid that I brought backstage with me to record it, mid-interview, goes, I'm not recording.
What a gut-wrenching feeling that's got to be.
And I really like this dude. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, so I didn't loke out on him, but
Right.
I was like, dude.
Yeah, you got all that good that you can't recreate.
Nah.
Right?
And he even said, he's like, we don't got to redo that, do we? And I was like, don't even worry about it, dude. Just meet my winners.
Yep.
Whatever. Next time I see him, it was the Limp Bizkit show at the Tower in Upper Darby. And first off, we got to sit side stage and watch Limp Bizkit together while splitting a bottle of Jameson. That was pretty badass.
I mean, that's a pretty cool story.
Pretty badass.
Yeah.
Before that, he performed, and I got footage from that side stage where he's getting into it with a fan.
Oh, shit.
Like while he like jumped in the crowd and someone tried to steal his mic, so he fought him and whatever. And so the next day I published that, and like his team's calling me like, dude, you gotta pull that down.
Yeah.
He's fighting his fans. I'm like, okay.
Fine.
The next time I see him, we're doing the interview, and this is before the Eminem beef. We're doing the interview, and we're talking, and I was asking him who he still wants to work with, like who he wants to collab with. And he's like, Eminem, if he ever stops being on what he's on.
Sure.
And I asked him, I'm like, well, what's he on? What do you mean? And he's like, well, he's just not messing with me and the rappers that he puts on. I know I'm better than a lot of them.
Sure.
So I'm like, this is great.
This is gold.
I leave there. I don't even make it out of the parking lot, and his manager calls me, and he's like, dude, we can't publish that. Like, you gotta scrub that part. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. So, and I've seen him a couple times since then, and it's a love fest. The guy's amazing. He's a really, really, really good dude. And I would say that's someone who I probably have the richest story with over the years of interviewing and getting to know.
Yeah, I mean, hell, that's a hell of a trajectory there of being like, I'm
About
done.
to fight.
Yeah, I'm done this interview, and now it's like, yo, anything that you need. I know he's got a coffee shop in Ohio. One day, if I make my way out there, I'm going to stop by.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do
it should be pretty cool. I've heard good things. From that, is there anybody that you have on a pedestal that you're like, I need to get this interview or interaction with before I end it all here?
I don't know. I don't know if I have that sort of like, I have people that I'm like, oh damn, I know that if him and I went for a couple minutes,
that'd be
some
cool.
good stuff. Like whether it's in music or wrestling or whatever, you know, like I'd love to get MJF and just go,
who wouldn't?
and so there's artists and there's athletes or entertainers that I find myself like, at this point, it's not necessarily who I want to meet. It's like who I know I'd make the best content with.
Okay.
Who I feel like, would dig
You
my
can go
deal.
back and forth with, like, have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one interview that I'm looking to grab sooner than later, my boy Pete Davidson. What's up, man? Pete Davidson.
Staten Island, right?
So he started doing stand-up at a show that I was on in New York. It was when Nick Cannon was our morning show host.
Okay.
And it was Nick Cannon's comedy set. And Pete had been brought out of Staten Island because one of our producers had seen him and was like in love with him and wanted him to come on. He was 17. and I was on because I worked at the station.
Okay.
And I went on before him, did not do well. And he came on after me. He killed. And after that, we got to be pretty close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, we kind of, look, I moved around, he moved around. And then next thing I know, boom, he's on SNL.
Right.
And then it just got bigger and bigger. And I would love to one day get that 25 minutes on tape.
Sure.
Like, let's rap. First off, let's rap about, some of the encounters we had back in the day, but also, like, I think that's somebody that I know I'd create great content with because I've known him.
Right.
Know? So,
yeah, you guys have a story. You guys have a history.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But I'm sure, like, you feel, too, you've done so many interviews with so many people. You've had all these experiences that it sounds, I just want to share that time with somebody and have that conversation, but also have it be worthwhile at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I could say, like, who are the biggest ones that I just, like, oh, my God, I would love to get, which, of course, you just name anybody massive. And
right,
exactly.
exactly.
Say yes.
Yep.
Then there's also people you don't want. Like, I don't know. Like, we go back to Eminem. I don't think I do ever want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Because what if it sucks?
Yeah. Never meet your heroes type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if it sucks? What if it's that Chris Farley, like, remember when you made this song? That's cool.
That was pretty awesome. Right? It's like, what is he'd be another one you could put up there and be like, he just ended the interview halfway.
Yeah.
He didn't even get started the interview when he left.
Totally. So yeah, that's I just like to make good stuff for people, like this.
Yeah, no, dude, and I can't appreciate enough you coming on here and just being able to chop it up. And I think that's the one cool thing is like being able to know you now beyond hearing you on the radio. Same thing with Jen, Jason, all those people. Like, oh man, we're all just people.
We're all just rocking, man.
Conversation.
Yeah, like you go over to my house and it's the same vibe as your house.
Yeah.
I do the same deal you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's cool.
It is. It's pretty neat. So as we're starting to wrap this up, because we're going on an hour 15.
Yeah.
Putting
in work out here.
We are. Any advice for anybody out there who's looking to get where you're at, whether it's doing social media stuff, whether it's being on the radio, like anything you can pass forward to them to be like, this is how you got to do it. This is how you got to chop it up.
I mean, I just think like in anything in this industry, I don't know about anything specific. I just think it comes down to what we talked about earlier. If you're willing to put in the work and if you're willing to put yourself in the position to accept the opportunity and what to do with the opportunity. Because I've had that too, man. Yeah. I've had stages that I didn't belong on at the time.
Sure.
I wasn't ready, and that's one of those things where I got the opportunity, but I hadn't put in the work yet.
Right.
You learn that later in life. And I would say, experience is key. Hours around the tower is important. Talk to the old people that have been there for a million years, but know when to heed their advice and know when not to, right? And then talk to the kid that just started there and know when to heed his advice and when not to. So I think it just comes down to passion, putting in the work and putting yourself in those opportunities and knowing what to do with them.
Right on. All right. Well, tell the people. We'll wrap this thing up here. Tell the people where can they hear more of you, when, where, and how they can reach out to you if they want.
Yeah. The show Bex and Buster is on weekday afternoons on Q102 from 3 to 7. You can catch everything on demand on iHeart Radio or on your Apple Podcast. Just search for Bex and Buster. She spells it BEX, not BECKS, but we made sure that both spellings work in case you, for some reason, think she spells her name like beer. And so check out the show there, and then just follow me at FM Buster. Follow us too at Bex and Buster. So that's the deal, man. Q102.
Do you have another social media, like just a hidden social media for Noise? Is that still living?
I think Noise might have a MySpace page.
Noise, check out the Noise MySpace.
I gotta kill those pictures.
All right, awesome. Well, let's hit this yellow button. Let's get the music back on here.
Oh, is this the sex music?
There it is.
Yeah.
Buster, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Chatting with Chase. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks
Guys,
for having me.
Make sure to subscribe, comment, like, all that stuff.
Do all of it.
Comment below. Who do you want to see us chat with next? But we'll catch you on the next one. That's all we got. Peace.